So before I go ahead and start this session, I will be I am recording this session. So once the session is over, I will send you across this link in the Google Drive from where you can access this session. And excuse me, guys, I have a little throat issues, so I will just be little talking in between. Okay. So the session that that I'm keeping today is primarily for the people who are using Dax. They are using Power BI, and they are really confused with how to do that. Or if you are trying to face some interview and want to understand how to use the Dax functions, or if you are a complete beginner to Power BI, and then if you want to join, and then if you want to understand, for that also you can attend this session. So let me introduce myself. My name is Amit, and I'm working with a product-based MNC right now as a senior business intelligence specialist with the data science team over there, and I have around 7 years of experience in this particular field. So primarily my work responsibly is work revolves around using Power BI and Tableau, but we prefer Power BI more. As if you have been using the Microsoft Office products, you can understand that it's the same Microsoft product. Microsoft is coming up with has came up with this Power BI, and you can utilize that Microsoft product suite experience with this Power BI thing, because most of the features and functionality remains the same here inside this Power BI. Now coming back to the DAX. Now DAX is again a formula. Now DAX is used inside Power BI desktop, Azure analysis services. It is used inside SQL services, SQL service analysis services, and you can extract the data on the basis of some condition that you are writing inside that DAX. So it's a kind of formula that you are trying to specify to the engine, on the basis of which it will fetch you the results. So before this Power BI came into picture, DAX was primarily used in SQL service analysis services. So if anyone of you are using that Microsoft BI suite of products, you would have used DAX functions in some point of time over there, because when we are building a cube inside SSAS and to fetch the information from there, we will be using the DAX thing. So that's about DAX. Now coming back to the Power BI DAX that we use in Power BI, we have more than 400 different data DAX functions that can be utilized, but out of those 400, primarily around 100 is the number 100 can be, I can specify that it is the regularly used. Apart from that, 300 or 400 things we don't use it very regularly out there. And amongst that 100, there are few things which we use on a regular basis, which we are using on a very regular basis. So I will be covering all those things which we are covering on a regular basis, and how you can write your measure, and where all those things will be helpful. Now coming back to the DAX, on different types of formula or different types of expressions that we have in that. So Microsoft has categorized in itself in different kinds of functions. So there is date and time functions. So if you are calculating some difference between time, or if you want to calculate some date and time, then there is a separate set of instructions that you need to follow, which is in date and time functions. Suppose if you are finding a length of a particular string, or if you have to find out something which is containing some kind of string related function, that comes under a text function. Then there is something newly introduced by Microsoft in this particular 2000 May 19, I guess. So this is time intelligence function. So here they have given many important things on the basis of which you can calculate your month to date functions. Filter function. This is mostly used type of functions inside the DAX. So as you progress in the DAX, you will see that you are encountering most of the functions which come under the filter function. Now this is the most complicated part, filter functions, because because of some challenges when you are writing some formulas, you want to see instant understand your if your number or if your answer is coming up correct or not. right? But sometimes what happens when you're writing that filter function, it does all the things in the background and you are not able to visualize the result in front. So that's why it makes very confusion. Then there is information function, logical and maths and stat function, and some other functions out there in there. So this is segregated by Microsoft. So I will not be covering the entire set of things that is mentioned over here, because 2 hours, it's not enough. Even 2 months, or it's not enough completely to master the DAX, because you need to regularly practice that one. So what I will be doing, I will be taking you through some of the commonly used measures that is there, and what is the logic behind that, and how you can use that in your regular work, that kind of thing. Am I audible to everyone? I am seeing few people are trying to rejoin in, so okay. Okay. So coming back to the first set of things that we have. So when we start writing any kind of functions, right? So basically we start writing with the sum functions. Now let me come back to the Power BI to explain you all those things. So we have seen that, okay, this is the sum function. Now first of all, if I'm in the Power BI, I have a data set loaded, which is nothing but our customer superstore data. So if you have been practicing Power BI, or if you are just trying to learn Power BI, I think, or instead Power BI or Tableau, you would have come across this data set, which is like customer superstore data set. So this superstore data gives the data about a retail store, and we have just tried to calculate few things apart from that retail store information that we have over there. So first function, what we saw is sum. Now how to write that measures, any measure, right? First of all, there are a few options that you can try. In the home option, when you are opening this Power BI after you have loaded the data, in this home option, you can come here and you can start writing your measure. So if I click on this new measure, it will create a new measure, and I can name something over there and start writing the formula. Now, one thing to be kept in mind, that when we are writing a measure, generally when the table that we have selected, it will be created in that measure. So if I'm just pressing escape here. So let's say if I want to create some measure inside this one, I will right click on this and click on this new measure option, or if I click on this new measure option here in this home tab, it will fetch me the same result. It doesn't make any difference. Now sometimes what happens, we just forget to select something in anything, just click. So right now you see none of the table is selected out here, and if I just go ahead and click on this new measure, Power BI directly creates the measure inside the first table that is available over here. So if I click on this new measure right now, you will see orders table has been highlighted. You see now orders table has been highlighted. So just to keep in mind this one, when you are trying to create a measure, it is not that we cannot change the orientation of the location of the measure that we have created. We can always create that measure. Say, let me check here. So if I have already created one measure, so you see this count X is a measure that I have already created right now here. Now in this count X, you see currently the home table is showing up as orders. Now if I want to move this count X to some different table, I can just click on this orders here, and I can move to the different tables that way. Let's say I want to move this to the returns table, this count X, and you see that data will be moved up in this count table that I have. Now coming back on how to write the different measures. So as I said, that we can go ahead and click on this new measure and start writing the measures. So let's start writing the measure. Now for the convenience, what I have done, I have already written the measures, and I will be taking you through all of them and explain you why we write and what are the functions that we go through that. So let us start with the first function, which is the sum function. Now why do we use the sum? And so sum generally we use to create a an aggregated function, right? So if I want to take a total of a particular column, I can use the sum function. So let me go into the data section. Now we have something called unit price, shipping cost in the data. Let me come to sales. Okay, so we have the sales figure given inside this particular column out here. Now if I want to do a total of the sales, what I will do, I will do a sum of that function, right? So it's pretty simple to write. So we will start writing, we will click on this new measure, and then this kind of window we will open, and it will, we can just amend the measure name. So generally when we are writing, it will come up like that, okay, measure, and then you start writing your formulas over here. So what we have to do, first step is we will just change the name of the measure what you want to give. So I'm trying to give this as total sales, and then when I'm writing this formula, so we have to first specify the formula that I'm trying to achieve, and then in this DAX formula we have to specify a column name or a table in most of the cases. Without that our functions will not work. So sum, and then we have to specify the column name. So here I know that, okay, my column name is let's say sales. So I have given I will give the sales thing, and I will close the bracket. Now if you have observed this, right, this sales is the name of the field and this orders is the table. So anytime when you're writing this DAX formula, most of the time you will see that your orders and your field name comes along with that. It is not separate. So in the very few of the formulas you will see that your field alone is being utilized. Always it will refer to the table and then the field. So this is to do with the sum. Now after I'm closing the bracket, I will just hit on enter, and then my measures is created right now here, and I can bring that into my visual. So let me just create a visual. Let me utilize the card. So if I have to bring the visual, I will just bring this measures into the field section, and it will highlight the total sales. Now this function is pretty simple, sum, and we all have utilized this particular function in some kind of other when we are working. Now there is new set of functions that has been introduced by Microsoft, which is having the X at the end. So all the functions, right, most of the aggregative function like sum, count, or average, they have introduced something which is having X at the end. Now any function if you see in the Power BI which is having an X at the end, consider that as a row by row iterator. So for an example, let me go back to the data. We have sales and we have this profit column available, right? So if I have to deduct sales minus profit and then do a calculation, then do a sum of that cost price, how I will do? So let me do that first. So generally in my in general terms, what I am trying to find is cost price. I will just create a new column out there, and I will specify cost price. Okay, let me create that. Now this what I'm trying to do here is a calculated column. If you have heard about this calculated column and calculated measures. Now if we are creating some calculated columns, it stays with the data. So here if I am creating a column, it will stay with this data, but measures is something that will not be staying. So we are creating measures to be used on the go. So let me just write some column name. Let me just mention as cost price, and then what I am trying to find is sales minus profit will give me my cost price. So I will just write order sales minus profit, my function for this cost price. Okay. Now what we have to do? Now we have to do a sum of this cost price to identify what was the total cost price for it. So let us write a new measure. So let me write a new measure. This sum of cost price sum of cost price. Now for that, simple, we will write, okay, sum of cost price. Now we have done the sum of the cost price. Now there has been like few steps that we have followed in the background, right, to come up till this particular thing. Now when there is something called X functions, right, that I just mentioned, that okay, X function is an iterator. So we could have reduced these steps, like of creating a particular column, then subtracting of profit minus cost price, and then doing the sum. So all these things that we have done could have been achieved directly with a SUMX function. So we have already created a SUMX function. So let me just take you there. So let me just amend this function. So when I'm writing this SUMX, I have just given the name as SUMX sales, and we can start writing that as SUMX, and then we specify the table. So as I told you in DAX, when you are writing any expression, any formula, always you have to specify a table in some form and in an expression that will be required. So my table is orders table that I have over here, and the expression. So what will be my expression? So expression, anywhere if you are seeing in DAX, it means like anything which is evaluating to one particular result. Might be a text, might be a number, might be a date, anything which is evaluating to one particular result. So that will be your expression. So here what will be my expression, which can be expressed in the expressed mathematically. So it will be my sales, order sales minus profit, and that's it. And if I hit enter, and if I just bring that into a new card over here, which is SUMX sales, you see this sum of cost price and the SUMX sales are coming same. So what are the steps that we have reduced over here? So we did not create a calculated function, we did not create a calculated column, we did not have to do all those stuff. Now what is the benefit of not creating a calculated column? Your performance of the Power BI file will be improved because we are not adding any further data into the data model, right? So anytime if you are having to go ahead and create a calculated column and then do a sum, instead what you can do, you can use a SUMX function. So what SUMX function is doing, so when I'm specifying that a SUMX and then subtract the sales minus profit, it is coming to each row, and then it is subtracting sales minus profit, keeping that result in the memory. Then I'm again coming that to the next line, subtracting sales minus profit, keeping that in a memory, and it goes on till your complete data ends over there. And then it will do a sum at the end of the entire thing that is there, and it will show you the result for that. So that's how SUMX function is working. Now there are like other functions also. So SUMX, then we have something related to count, which is there as count X. Then there is something for average, we have average X. Now I won't be taking you through that entire set of things because it will be again very vague and complete lengthy thing. So I would just share you all this recording, so you just try to go ahead and explore the X functions that is available over there. Then we have this count function, right? So count function is again pretty straight that we have. Now previously, like, there were two functions that was to be used. So we used to have a count, and then we used to have a count A function. So count generally used to just count the number. So if there is any particular field which is having a numerical value, we use the count function. And if you are having anything which is having a text function, we used to use a count A function. But now Microsoft has come up with that update that you can use count to count anything. So if you are using a numerical or a text field or a date range, anything you can use with the count. So let me just see, I have created this count function. Okay, count I have moved in returns. So if you look in this one, so I have instead of using a simple count, right, what I have used over here, I have used a count X function. Now what is the extra benefit that you get when you are using an X? So as in for like SUMX or count X or an average X, so you can specify a table. So like when I'm not specifying this table and if I'm just trying to count, so what it will give me, it will give me all the things, that is, it will go and count the entire table, entire column in the product category, and it will give me a list that okay, you have 1900 row items over there. However, when I'm using this X function, I can specify the table. So here I am specifying that okay, the first expression that we are writing in count or any X function, it is to give a table, right? So I'm specifying that okay, go and first filter the table where my sales is greater than 1000, and then search for the product. What it is trying to do, it is first like filtering my table which is having 1000 greater than 1000 sales, and then it is counting the product category and it is bringing me that result out here. So this becomes very useful when you have to do something like count, if, sum if, that kind of functions. That is very helpful out here. Okay, so that is to do with the X functions that is required, and it is like really a very powerful function to use in certain times where you don't have any other things to be used out there. Coming back to the next formula, calculate. Now calculate is the king of the DAX formulas that we have. Now why I say that calculate is the king, because when you will start writing the calculate function, you will see that almost entire function that you are trying to achieve an entire result, right, that you are trying to achieve can be done through the calculate function. So let's go ahead and understand the calculate function that we have. So let me just see the sales amount over here. So I have already created few measures related to the certain like DAX things that I will be going to explain. Now this formula, as you see, this is like total sales amount that we have over there, right? I'm just calculating the total sales. Now what calculate will make a difference is like I can specify a filter. So the same thing we were able to achieve with the SUMX or COUNTX, right? We were able to specify a table inside that. However, in calculate, it works in the opposite way. So let me just go to this calculate and show you how. So if I'm trying to write a calculate function, you see, generally when we are writing the SUMX formula, the initial thing it was asking us to give was a table, and then it used to ask for an expression. So when we are writing this calculate function, it works the opposite way. So we can give an expression on what needs to be evaluated, what is the result that you want to evaluate, and then you can specify what is the filter that you want. So here, what is my expression? So let's say I want to identify what is my total sales. Now for this small thing we will not use calculate, right? This can be achieved with the sum function also. However, if I just want to add an additional filter, and like additional filter, let's say multiple filter, we are trying to identify 3-4 filters, and on that basis if we are trying to calculate a total of sales, then in that case calculate becomes very handy. So now if I am including one filter over here, you see what it is coming up. So we are having this calculate of total sales, and then I'm specifying this table name that okay, let me write it over there. So if I'm writing this function, what I will first specify, I will specify the expression. Now expression is what? Sum of total sales, sum of sales. Now we don't have to write this sum of sales every time. If we have already created one measure which is already giving me the same result, I can always go back and use the measure that we have already created. So we have this total sales. Then you see what is the syntax saying, that specify the filter, right? So I don't want the entire sales. What I want is like only the sales for a particular let's say we have a state. So I will just filter the sales data for California. So I can specify, then I will start writing the field name. and you see it has come up in the intelligence list that state or province from the orders table that is over here. Now I will just hit a tab and then I will specify equal to, and I will say California. So what I'm trying to say here that okay, calculate total sales where the state is equal to California. And how this calculate function work is like it will always execute the second portion first. So it is going to the table and it is filtering the data only for California, and then it is bringing that table of information into this total sales. So if I have to explain through an Excel file, I will just open the Excel file and make you understand how it is working in the background. So let me just open that Excel file that I have for the Superstore. Okay. So what was our condition that okay, state, we have to calculate total sales on the basis of state which will be only California. So what is the filter that we are trying to achieve? We are trying to give a filter on state. So here we will just go ahead and filter first, as we saw, as I told you that the first thing that calculate will execute is the second portion. So I will just use the California as a filter right now here, and you see this will be my sales value, which is like 2.8 or 288 something. The number is coming up over here. Now if so, what is happening over here? So this particular portion is getting executed first. So this is getting filtered first, California, and whatever data remains after that, after the filters, it will calculate the value on this basis. So it will take a sum on that basis. Now here I have only specified one particular filter. There are multiple filters that you can specify with this one. So this is the use of calculate, wherein you can specify a table on the basis of which the expression needs to be evaluated. And just for your reference, I will just add it over here that when you are creating, there are two types of answers. Always two type of answers that you will derive. So one is scalar and one is tabular. So tabular is something is like when we are writing the sales with calc. What is this evaluating to? This is evaluating to a table, right? So this is a tabular function, tabular evaluation, and this particular one result. So something total sales will be one particular number, right? Be it 1 million or 288 something, some million, but it is one number that is coming up over here. So one, wherever like you are achieving one result, it might be a date, it might be a numeric something, or it might be a text. It is a scalar value, and wherever you are evaluating to a table, it is a tabular value. So in the calculate function, what it does, it will calculate, it will try to evaluate the tabular function first, and then it will pass on to that result onto the different expression that needs to be evaluated, and finally it will give you the result. So that's what calculate. So I have brought in, if you are able to visualize, see this particular visual that I have. So I have created a table, and in this I have brought in total sales, and along this with I have brought in the calculate sales. So you see what it is happening right now here. So in this sum with calculate visual that I have, right, it is ignoring all the other, like city, this is city out here. So if there is any city which is not coming under the California, it is ignoring that result out here. So let's say Los Angeles. So Los Angeles belongs to California, that's why it is having the result. Now Madison does not belong to California, so that's why it is ignoring the result that is there, right? And if I just keep on scrolling, you will see the same kind of result is there. Now you can further go ahead and add some more filter to that. So let's say if I want to be let's say if I want the state to be California, and state, or sorry, let's say amount where the sales has been higher than 500. So that also I can specify that okay, then order sales greater than 500, and it will also again evaluate to a result. So in that case, what will be the function that will be coming up? What will be the filter that will be utilized? So it is doing what? It is first going to the state. Let me go to the state. It is going to the first state, filtering out, stating it is California, and then it is filtering out which is greater than 500. So it will put a filter of 500, and whatever remains after that, it will calculate the result on the basis of that. You see, 269 million, 269K is the answer, and that's what the total that we are seeing over here, which is 269K. Now, why DAX become confusing sometimes is like because of the thing that is happening in the background. So when you are executing this calculate function, right, you are not able to visualize how this calculation is happening in the background. Wherever when you are using the sum function, if you are just dragging that up, you can visualize this very quickly that okay, this is the total function and this is giving me that result. So that's how that is an explanation of how calculate works. So let us move to the next set of function that I have, which is filter. Now filter, along when I said like calculate is the most used function, so the second most thing which is used along with calculate is filter. So always you need someone along with you to assist, right? Then only you are going to be successful. That's how calculate works. So calculate alone cannot do anything if it does not have a filter function along with that. Because when we are writing any calculate function, any basic calculations, what we are trying to do over here, we are just trying to write a filter function. But this is an open filter. We are what an open filter means is like we are not specifying like this. Okay, this filter and then go ahead and filter that. So this is kind of open filter that we are specifying it over here, right? So filter along with this calculate makes it very, very powerful to use. So let's go ahead and understand the filter function on how we can write that. So I have created this filter function right now here. So this might be looking little big and confusing, but I will just break it in part by part to make you understand. So again, I have started, as I told you, right, calculate along with filter makes it like a very important function to be used inside this Power BI. So if you look in this expression, so first in the last one when I was calculating, what I did, I was trying to write a sum function, like take sum of total sales. Here what I am trying to do, I am just trying to count the sales figure on the basis of some conditions that I have over here, right? So this expression is giving me that okay, what is the count of the sales column that we have, what are the number of different things that we have in the sales column, and we are putting some filters in that. Now when we are not specifying that filter, right, it does not do anything. There are certain cases where like you have to specify this filter and then it works very efficiently. Now I will not go into the depth. There are some functions which is like all except all selected, and then we have these three. So these three along with filter can do some really wonderful things, but as I am saying, like this can do wonderful things, it is the most complicated functions of the Power BI to be understood. So that's why I'm not covering it over here, but these are the things along with that, like you can combine with filter, and when you are combining these functions with the filter, it makes filter a really powerful thing to be used. So coming back to our functions that I have mentioned it over here, so what I am trying to specify over here is like filter orders where sales are greater than 500. So only difference what makes it over here when you are specifying an open filter. So let's say if I have to specify an open filter like state should be California, as I mentioned in the previous thing. Let me just start writing state. is equal to California. So here what I'm doing, I'm just directly typing it out the state and then specifying the value that it should look for in the filter and give you the result. However, if I specify the filter function, if I'm specifying the filter, you see what it is first giving. It is first giving me the reference to the table. So I have to first specify the table and then I have to give an expression on what basis it should filter the table. So let me keep the old function back out here. Now what I have specified in the first filter out here is like orders is my table. In the filter you can see the syntax over there that okay, the first thing is my orders table. And what is my expression? My expression is orders like a sales amount where it is greater than 500. So this makes complete one filter. And then what I have done, I have again combined that with an open filter wherein I am specifying two conditions that okay, now sales should be greater than 500, but state can be either of California or Alabama. So for that what I have done, I have specified a OR statement generally how we do in other things. So we have specified an OR functions available over here, and then I'm just specifying the open filters again that okay, order of state or province is state or province is equal to California or my state is equal to Alabama, and then we are utilizing this result. So can do really wonderful things if it is utilized in a proper way. Along with that, all selected and all except that I spoke to you. But those are like a really complicated thing, and even if you try to understand in the beginning stage, it like you will completely what I can say, it will be completely disturbed. You would not be able to understand what is the difference it is trying to make, like what all is doing or what all expected, because everything gives the same result, but this filter will try to filter the data in the background. So now we will cover that. Might be some different session. So that is to do with the filter. Now when I have brought in this function in my visual, you see it is trying to give me the result on the basis of both Alabama as well as California out here. So Los Angeles, it is showing me that okay, this is the 20 number because it belongs to the California, and it is also showing me some result for this particular region over here, which is Madison. Now Madison belongs to Alabama. Now anywhere wherever the city or state is Alabama or California, it will show me the result. Okay, so this was to do with the sales with filter. Now coming back to the next function that we have is switch. Now switch is I would not say that most important function or something like that, but it becomes really useful at times. So switch, what I can say, it's a replacement of if function that was already there. So you can use the if function also as well as the switch function. Now sometimes, or not sometimes, like most of the time it is being said that okay, if function has a better performance for that. Switch makes like the performance little bad over there in the table, but however there are some scenarios wherein you cannot avoid that switch function and you have to use that kind of thing. So here I have tried to bring in the data for both if and switch, and I will just explain you the syntax on how you can utilize this switch or how you can utilize this if function that we are writing over here. So let me just see the size with if. Okay, this is done. So when we are writing the if function, right, I believe that every one of you would have written some kind of if function. Now if function works in a pretty simple format that okay, if given condition that if it is matching, then value should, what is the value when it is true and what is the value when it is false, like I have mentioned over there. So what I am trying to do, I am trying to work with a measure that okay, if the measure value, the sales with filter, is greater than 3, then give that as a high transaction, otherwise give that as a low transaction. And I have just brought in over here in this one, in this function which says deal size with if, and here I am getting the result. So what it is doing, it is iterating through each of the filters that is available over here, and it is seeing that okay, if this is greater than 3, it is giving high transaction. If it is less than 3, it is giving the low transaction over here. So this was pretty simple on how you can write an if function. So if I just start writing this if function, the syntax is pretty simple for this if function, that okay, if give one logical test, if that test is being passed, then it will return the value what is for the true, and it will, and then you can again specify what is the result to be for the false. Now just for an advice, like it's always good to combine your if with an if error statement. So sometimes, like because of some null value or some kind of error inside your data, it might throw up an error. So it's always good and advisable to combine your data with an if error. So when you are using that with if error, what it does, so it will execute this portion first, and if it sees okay, if there is any data like which is incorrect or some kind of error that is coming up in the data, it will just replace with the value if error statement. I mean, if I am just replacing that value with NA, so if it is encountering any error in this data, it will give me a NA as a result over there instead of showing up an error. So I will just execute that, and let me see if I am getting any result for NA out here. I don't think it will be there as an NA, but there is no NA. So that was to deal with the if. Now if I have to write the similar kind of statement in the switch function, how we can write it? So switch function, it is looking little complicated again over here because of the syntax that we have over here. So how to write the switch statement? So if I like just look at the syntax of the switch here, it says give the expression and then give the value and then what will be the result. So let's say for an example, you have some column which is specifying the month. So I don't have over here, I will just write an imaginary column over here. So month, you're having one column which is giving you the month, right? Now for each of the different line items, you will have a different value for the month, right? So what will be your value? So suppose for January you will have a value. So for January you will have a value of 1. Then for February you will have a value for 2. For March you will have 3, and so on, right? So how switch works over here is like you specify the value that okay, if this is 1, then what should be my result? Then if I want to replace that with the text, I will write okay, January. Okay. And then again I will specify that okay, if the result is 2, then put Feb. If the result is 3, then put as March. Now consider this situation if I have to write this in if function. So if I have to really write this function in if, it will be really difficult. So what I have to do, I have to first specify that okay, month is, and everywhere I have to write like that okay, if month is equal to 1, then give Jan, then again month is equal to 2, then put it as Feb. So this becomes little monotonous when I'm writing this if function, because everywhere I have to specify that month. So this is the extra word that I'm writing everywhere. However, when I'm writing that with switch, I don't have to do that function, do that thing out here. I can specify the function at once that okay, if this is month, this is month, then I will specify the value and then the result. So sometimes the switch function performs better than if function, but it depends on the result that you're trying to achieve. Most of the times when we are using when we are working with the functions, if function like is sufficient, but there are some rarest of scenarios where you will have to use the switch function. So let's go back to the switch function. Now what I am trying to do over here is like I'm trying to achieve that okay, if my sales filter is less than 1, Now if you're seeing this over here, this is for a different like region that different result that I have written everywhere, this filter, that okay, sales with filter. This is for a different region because I'm trying to calculate something numeric out here, so that's why it was mandatory to give me for that. So what I'm specifying that okay, switch, and then if this value is evaluating to true, then give me a low transaction, and if this is evaluating to less than 2, then give me a mid transaction. If it is less than 3, then give me high transaction, otherwise give me as a very high transaction. So basically it is doing the same thing what if is doing, but in a certain like different manner. And as I like told you that okay, you should understand where you have to use that if function and switch depending on the certain circumstances. But if you have to use, always like use the if function in the beginning. That should be the best thing. So first to do with the switch function over there. Now coming back to the next thing is like dates YTD, dates QTD, and dates MTD. Now what is these things? So these things, as I said in the beginning, that Microsoft has come up with a time intelligence functions, and inside that time intelligence function what you have to do, you can create a cumulative functions kind of thing. So suppose if you have to create a sales which will give like figure which will give you a month to date sales, so how you can do that? So earlier like there was a different function, you can use a function called earlier. Now earlier is little confusing to understand, and that's why they have made it little simpler by bringing in the month to date, QTD and YTD, and there are many more things, but this MTD, QTD and YTD things are the most commonly used functions. So if I have to write any MTD function, right, how we will be doing that? Let me just bring in that MTD sales first. So it's pretty simple. So what you have to do is like first you have to specify, again you see the calculate coming into the picture. So as I told you, almost all the Power BI functions you will use, there will be somewhere that calculate is getting used over there. You have to use that calculate in some form or the other if you're trying to do some calculation which is more than a standard. So what I'm trying to achieve is like I'm trying to achieve my sales for month to date. So how much is my month to date sales? So when I say month to date, I will explain you. First let me explain this functions what I'm trying to write here. So this particular portion you would have now understood that okay, this particular portion of this calculate is trying to give me an expression. It is trying to evaluate one result. Now the second portion where we are specifying a table, right, where we are specifying some kind of filter, what we are trying to do is filtering the dates MTD function. If I select this date MTD function, what it is trying to do here, it will select a particular table and automatically in the background it will calculate okay, what will be the last date of that month. So I have a date column which says orders, order date. Let me see. Okay, orders date. Now again you see when I'm specifying, I have specified the name of the table and the field that I'm taking from that orders date. So when I'm writing this, what it is trying to do, it is creating a filter for that. It is only from this orders date column, it is only filtering out the dates which is for one particular month. If I just execute this first, and if I try to explain you in this visual that you have, if I'm explaining this in the visual, this if you're able to see this, so if I'm using this month to date sales, right, what is happening? So from 3rd Jan it is coming up till here, and you see at the end of the month it is each month it is showing that okay, this is like this much sales happening in each of. So for each of the month it will like not each of the month, I mean for each day here it is trying to calculate, because we have bifurcated this with the different days that is available over here. But once we group this data, it will show on the basis of different month that we have. So right now Power BI gives you the functionality of creating time intelligence functions for 3 different sections, which is like month to date sales, quarter to date sales, and year to date sales, and you can use that extensively according to your preference. So if I just remove this date function over here also, right, then also I will be able to get the result which will specify that okay, what is my month till date. So month till date will take the current month information, then Q2 sales will take the quarter. For this quarter, how much has been the sales, and this will give me what is my year to date sales. Now it is only showing the office supplies, and because there have been certain filters that is applied, like okay, I have applied Florida, so if I just remove this Florida, then the numbers will increase. Also I have filtered for like top 15 of sales, so let me remove this filter. So yeah, and then again this office supply. So you see, this is my entire result. So what it is trying to say is that okay, for this furniture, what is my month to date sales, what is my quarter to date sales, and what has been my year to date sales for each of the different product category. And trust me, this is like a very commonly used function, because most of the time when you are working with your real-time data set, you need to calculate, okay, if you are working with any sales data, you need to like project it to the management what has been your month to date sales or quarter to date sales or year to date sales. So that kind of things that you need to project. So this becomes very, very important at that place over there. So to write MTD, as I told you, right, you can use this MTD function, and in that you have to specify a date column. So you cannot specify any other column. So if you are trying to specify a column which is not a date, it will not give you any result. It will start throwing up an error. So when you are giving this date MTD, always specify the column for the date function over there. Then if you have to write a QTD function, it's pretty simple that okay, you use the same syntax that is there, just you have to change that dates MTD to the dates QTD, and you are specifying the same set of fields. Now Power BI with its time intelligence, that's why it is called as time intelligence function, it will automatically understand that what is the what is the quarter that I need to take, what is the month that I need to take, or what is the year to date functions inside this one. So this is to do with the time intelligence function that you can achieve. Now as I said, like there are other time intelligence functions also, but amongst all of them, these are the most commonly used, which is dates MTD, QTD, and YTD functions. Coming back to the next, so we have variable. Now variable, it is like a very important function. Variable, unlike calculate or let's say time intelligence function, what it does is like it is storing a variable into its memory. Now let me just explain you. So what we have tried to do here is like this is a superstore data, right? So in superstore or any retail store, right, when is the highest customer visit? It is during the weekends, like on Saturday and Sunday. Now I want to dynamically calculate the commission, or I want to like see how much commission is being paid to all the managers on the basis of which day of the week it is. So in that case, what I have to do, I have to first identify which date is today, and then dynamically I have to pass on that value to a different function to calculate the sales. So let me just open the function that we have, is weekday commission. Now you see what I'm trying to do here is like I am creating a variable which says day of week, and what I'm calculating over here, so which day is today. So this is a different function, I'm not explaining here. So I've just used this weekday function, and on the basis of this weekday, what you can do is like you are achieving what is the today's day, like is it Sunday or Monday or Tuesday. I can specify. So there is an option of like specifying that you want to calculate the day from Sunday to Sunday, or you want to calculate it through Monday to Sunday, or that Monday to Sunday. So here I'm calculating that okay, Sunday to Sunday. Now I have to write this function in such a way that tomorrow, if the day is Monday, the commission should change automatically. The commission calculated should be changing automatically. So for Sunday and Saturday we are paying high commission as there is like high visit to the customer. On Monday to Friday we are paying low. The reason because there is low footfall in the store available over there. So how we write the variable first of all? So we are just defining the name of this measure name. Then we are specifying variable var, and then the name of the variable that we are declaring, and then the function what that variable will store. Now I have just created one particular variable out here because of the requirement. You can create multiple variable. You can write again variable, and then let's say month over here, and then I can specify the month, and I can specify the date. Let's say I'm specifying the order date. Don't have a date field over here. Let me see if I'm able to. Sorry. Okay, so I am not able to specify a date, but in this way you can specify one more or like as many variable as you want over here, and that variable you can utilize inside the different formula. So what is the next step after this? So first you specify the variable that okay, this variable is your day of the week, and it is storing some result inside this day of the week, and then we specify a return function. So if you have used this Python or any other programming language, you would be aware of that it is doing. So it is returning the value on the specified function. So what I want that okay, if my day of the week is equal to 1, day of the week means this variable that I have created, that oh, if this is 1, it should calculate the commission as 30%. If it is day of week is 7th, it should calculate 20%. Otherwise it should calculate 10%. So here what I am trying to say that okay, if it is Saturday, calculate 20%, if it is Sunday, calculate 30%, and on other days just calculate it as 10%. Now as I have specified this variable, right, this entire process will be done dynamically. So I don't have to come here and change the formula every day. Okay, that okay, today is Sunday, take this percentage. Okay, today is Monday, take this percentage. No, it will automatically understand through this variable, and it will bring this data here, and then it will fetch the results accordingly. Now calculate, again variable, calculate, filter, these all things can be really used together to make some powerful functions and transformation inside the Power BI. So this is to do with the variable function that we have. Now coming back to the next function, so we have something rank. Now what rank does, it's like it's ranking the data, ranking the information that you have on the basis of specified conditions. So to write a rank function, we write it as rank x. The function says rank x. Let me just open this up over here. So here what I am trying to do, I am trying to rank the commissions, like how much commissions is being paid and who has earned the highest commission from here, right? So now my data has been sorted in descending, so the highest person who is earning, it has been ranked as 4, however it should be 1. So we will go ahead and amend that. So if I start writing a rank function, so generally what we have to specify is like specify a table first. If you look at the syntax of the rank over here, so I'm just specifying a table. So what is my table? It's orders table. Then I'm specifying an expression. So expression is nothing but a mathematical calculation on what basis I want to rank the data. So we have the commissions, right? I have used the commissions thing over here. So I will just specify weekday commission out here, and then I will, you see there is something called value. So no one understand why like Power BI have kept this value in this field, because it has never been used. You will never use this value inside the rank function. It's very rarely used. Like in 0.001% that you will use value sometime inside the rank function. And then there is that okay, you want to sort your data in a ascending or descending fashion, and there is something called dense and skip. So first let me specify the ascending, and there is a dense and skip. So I'm not going to this one. I will just give you a brief hint of what this is doing out here. So this is how you write a rank function. Now coming back to our original function that was there. So what I am trying to do here is like, so let's say if I have this manager over here, right, and my manager is getting sorted, the list of this manager is getting sorted as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now let's say instead of this manager, if I bring in this city, just observe the changes that it is bringing over here. So let me just select this and bring in the city, and I will remove the manager. Now you see the result that is coming up, it looks little weird, right? So it is not ranking on the basis of the city that is selected out here. So when you are like putting some data, right, if you are putting the commission, so this commission means, right, it is doing that commission on the basis of each city that we have. It is like for Aberdeen it's 12.21 and Abilene 15.99, and so for each city it is trying and to filter and give you the commission that is being paid on the basis of that city. Now if I want to do a rank, right, I want my city to be ranked, but that is not the case here. Like you see, it is not giving me a correct result. So what we have to specify, there is a function called all selected, as I told you right in the beginning that there are some functions which is all except, all selected, all, so that you can combine with other functions and make it little powerful. So if I'm specifying a rank, so previously I specified the manager in this one because we were showing the commissions on the basis of manager. So what I will do, I will write all selected, and then I will specify the city. I will specify the city, and then I will specify the weekday commission, and then ascending and dense, the other syntax that was there in the rank. So what it does actually, it sorts the data, it ranks the data on the basis of the selections that we have right now. So what we have selected, so we have selected the city now, and now you see it is doing the ranking on the basis of this city that we have, and you see it is doing the ranking on a properly basis wherein like we have ranked from 1 to 864 based on the 864 different cities that we have over here. So this is the proper way in which you can use the rank. Sorry guys. So here again I will just go back and change that to manager. So in case if I'm using the manager, again it will throw the error. It will not specify me the correct result. So for that what I have to do, I have to again bring that manager into place, otherwise again it will show the incorrect ranking that is available here. So let me just, sorry, I will bring the rank out here, and I can bring the measure as manager. So manager is coming from different tables. And I will remove the city from here. So my data is again coming up properly, and I will just sort this information in a proper way. So this is how you can use this rank function into your measure. Now apart from this, right, if the measure that you have created, you can utilize those measures inside different filters. So in the filters, so let's say when I'm using a rank, right, so generally when I use this city, let me just go ahead and edit that city, edit that rank function. So when we are using this rank function, we don't want to see that entire, okay, who is my like entire list. What you want to see that, okay, who is the top 10 or top 20 according to the rank, right? So what we will do, we will just bring in the city, And the measures that you have created, you can specify that okay, what you want to see. So I want to see all the measures which is less than 11. And what it will do, it is showing you the top 10 city which has the the commission paid. Now it is doing the ascending. So let me just write the function in a descending fashion. So now what we are trying to see, that we are seeing that all the city which has the highest commission being paid. So Los Angeles being the number one, then comes the New York City, then comes the Washington, and so on. It is like trying to do the rank over here, right? So this is to do with the rank function. So all the measures, right, be it with the if function, be it with the calculate, anything that you are trying to create or anything which you have created, you can utilize all these functions inside a filter to make it more effective to the for the presentations. So these are some of the basic functions that is like a really useful when you are doing your regular Power BI like dashboards over there. But there are many complicated formulas apart from this one which I wanted to include, but then again I thought okay, instead of like using all those complicated things, let's start off with the basic things which will be really helpful for everyone, and then so that they can utilize this. So I have just kept all these measures that I have explained to you, so which included SUMX, count, and then we have calculate, filter, switch, and then time intelligence function, variable, and rank x functions. So I will be sharing, so I'm just keeping it till now. I wanted to extend it a little bit more, but I am having some throat issue, so I won't be able to like continue with other functions. So that's why I reduced it to a certain portion out here. Now I will again be conducting sessions on those like further measures that I told you, right? Those are like little complicated to understand, because for those things you have to understand like how it is happening in the background. So I will be again conducting one session probably next week on those things, on how you can utilize those measures and write a next level, like a little more standard measures sorry, standard measures into your Power BI. In case if you are trying to like do anything which is related to Power BI, and if you are getting stuck somewhere, you can always reach out to me in the same email from which you have like got the emails, and I will respond you back on the queries that you are having to that. If you have any questions, like I will be sharing the recording, so if you are having any doubt with any like with these formulas also, you can always reach back to me after the recording session, and I will try to help you out with that thing. So are we good with that? Like now, yeah. So just like in the case if I like mentioned at the beginning that okay, I'm just keeping a small session. So there were like around 40 people who registered for the session, but I can see like around 6-7 people only. So I have just kept a like small fee for this one. That okay, if you want to pay to this, you can pay it from like Google Pay or Phone Pay. And again, like I will be conducting a regular session on the Power BI thing, on the visualization section, on the Dax section. So all those will be individual sections in coming weeks, and I will be notifying you all through the email. So if you want, you can again register for the same. So it will be same from 12:30 to 2:30 on every weekend that I will be continuing it surely further. So thank you guys. So if you want to just make any payment, you can just send it on this phone number that is like being displayed over here, and I will again connect you back for some different training, and I will share this particular recording into a Google Drive, and I will send you the email along with that, so that you guys can have access to this one. Thank you everyone.